Hello everybody, my name is RagingRaptor and I welcome you to today's video where we talk about the changed Leopard 1 on the 1.5.1 test server iteration 1. I want to point out it's iteration 1 because maybe they changed something and my points which I will make in this video will be not right anymore. Hence why this is iteration 1, this is what we have right now. But before we dive into the changes of the Leopard 1, I do want to point out what the Leopard 1 exactly is and why it was made. The Leopard 1 was made because the Germans back then in 1960, 1970 around were thinking, you know what? We do not think that conventional armor will be able to hold off heat rounds, which back in the days were like the thing you wanted to have. They were the amazing thing, which was like head mind-blowing because it was so effective at penetrating armor. This was why the Germans came up with the Leopard 1. The Leopard 1 being a main battle tank, which, well, if you may or may not know, the goal of this tank was basically to be the tank which is going to shoot first at the enemy and has the ability to relocate quickly. It should be fast. It was even projected to have 30 horsepower per ton ratio, which it does not have in game. It is 20.6 at the moment. So yeah, this was like the imagination of the Leopard 1, and this is also what we most likely got in the real life. A fast tank, or at least for a real life tank, a very fast, heavily armored tank. A tank which had an incredibly accurate gun, which from what I've heard and know, won thousands of, well, shooting contests, well, not thousands, but a lot of shooting contests, and a tank which had this style in mind of getting into a good position, making the first shot onto the enemy tank, which counted, and then gun it. That was basically what the Leopard 1 is. And I want to point out that this is also what I wanted to see in the game world of tanks, because at the given moment when we look at all the tier 10 medium tanks, you come to a conclusion that we don't really have a medium tank on tier 10 which is this run and gun gameplay. The only tank at the moment which more or less could even get close to that would be right now the new youuuu 1516 in my personal view. Because not only do you have this very good camouflage, you also have this amazing gun depression and you have this very good mobility in my personal opinion. Yes, it is not as good as the Leopard 1's, but at least you have 24 km/h backward speed. This tank really excels at this run gun tactic, especially now with also the more punchy gun with 440 alpha. So you can see that Wargaming with the changes tried to go into this, well, how should I say, into this way of making the Leopard 1 run and gunning, but with the changes they made, and I don't really see them as a buff, to be honest, as just as a rebalance, because hardly any of this was a buff for the Leopard 1 per se, feels just not finished. It feels like you could have done on every single buff they made. You could have gone a slight bit further without making this tank completely overpowered or completely unfun to play against. And if I am talking about the Leopard 1, or if I'm talking about how I want to see the Leopard 1, I think the EBR 105 is what I had projected in my mind. An agile tank which had good speed, a punchy gun, and can do devastating strikes against enemies. Yes, obviously I'm not going to see an EBR 105 Leopard 1. I don't want to have a Leopard 1 which goes 105 km/h and 70 km/h backwards. That makes no sense. But at least a little bit more mobility would be great. If you think about it, the EBR is much nimbler, much smaller, while the Leopard 1 is a bulky hunk of metal with no armor to speak of and is much easier to hit than an EBR 105 is. So now let's have a look at the changes they made precisely to the Leopard 1. So they changed the standard shells from APCR to APCR, which are slightly faster, if I'm not mistaken. They now have 278 millimeters of penetration. The EG shells got also changed to DM11s, which now have 510 alpha as well as 105 millimeters of penetration. And lastly, you get 323 millimeters of penetration on your gold shells, but they're not heats anymore, they are APCRs, meaning they lose throughout distance, like the penetration rate. Wargaming explicitly said though that the gain or the loss of penetration over distance was minimal. So for the standard rounds, it is from 278 to 269, which is now 9 millimeters over 500 meters, which is comparable nothing. Like, that is totally okay. The premium rounds even lose less, 8 millimeters, and you have at 500 meters still 350 millimeters of penetration. That is still a very good value and more or less can compensate the problems heats had, being that they don't have any normalization, which makes the effective armor much stronger on tanks. So this could in theory actually help very well. And the biggest gimmick which now is the new HE with 105 millimeters of penetration and a chunky part of damage with 510, which is also equivalent to what, it's 10 more than what the EBR has. Again, this is actually amazing. Like, if you know what you're doing, you can use this penetration rate on your AGs. The only problem, however, is where on a tank like the EBR 105, you have the ability to get quickly into the backs of the enemies, where with this tank you don't really can because you are too bulky for that. So you still have to hit those weak spots frontally or hit the lower plates of an enemy Leopard 1 from 400 plus meters to be effective with that HE. So in total, I only saw myself shooting HE if I know I had a Leopard 1 in front of me, an FV4005 stage 2, or artillery. That's the only times I had the ability to hit the Leopard 1 or use the HE of the Leopard 1, excuse me. I played 13 games on a test server. Sadly, the statistics reset, obviously, because it's a new day. So that's, yeah, a little bit sad. But yes, I played 13 games on this tank, and we're going afterwards to have a look at the best game I had to also show you what the problems are. So they changed the accuracy on the move, on the hull traverse and movement in general. Which is, and also they changed slightly the turret traverse accuracy, which is great. You can feel those changes and they feel nice. What they did, however, though, is also to nerf the hull traverse speed from 54 degrees to 48 degrees per second, which is meh, and you can feel this nerf in the mobility, especially when you want to turn around or something. They also made the gun slightly more accurate from 0.3 to 0.29, and they gave it a long reload time but a quicker aim time from 1.9 to 1.7 seconds and from 8.7 to 9.3 seconds. I used to have 7.03 second reload time on the Leopard 1 with this loadout. Now I have 7.51. So we have a net game of 0.5 seconds basically of long reload time, half a second more. And do trust me guys, a half a second more can make a difference between dying and living. Anyway, you also got a faster turning turret by 4 degrees, and you got more top speed, which is now 70 kilometers per hour, and you got worse reverse speed from 23 to 20 kilometers per hour, and you lost 100 horsepower. So now let's have a look at the tanks against each other. This now is the old Leopard 1, and right over here we have the new Leopard 1 on the 1.5.1 test server. The first thing you will see, you will get a net game of around 30 DPM more, which is laughable at best and basically nothing, to be honest. I do even think that for gaining 30 DPM more, you lost way too much, being the consistency of the gun, or rather the lack of consistency which you could somewhat balance with a quicker rate of fire. Because like the problem is, what I personally experienced a lot with the Leopard 1 is, even though it claims to be a very accurate gun, and that's just the whole problem in World of Tanks in general, it still doesn't feel accurate. You can't say, you know what, I'm going to more or less consistently hit a lower plate at 300 to 400 meters. That's not going to happen, because the problem in World of Tanks is everything aiming is a Gaussian normal. I don't know, it's Gaussian distribution. There we go, distribution. So every okay, sorry, I just have to quickly get the picture up which I wanted to show you. It's normal distribution, not normal verteilung, that's a German word, but we are talking about this graph right here. So every single tank basically in the game, except for artillery as far as I know, has the chance, or the same chance, to hit 67% of its shots in the same area basically. So for example, like just as a weird little example, let's just take, we have this blue curve right here. So you could say in theory that a Leopard 1, when it has 0.26 accuracy, meaning it has a circle at 100 meters which is 52 centimeters in diameter, it would say in theory that 67% of your shots will be in a circle diameter of 30 centimeters or 1 feet, while the rest will be more or less on the outside ring. But this also means that when we have for example, a value of like 60% of the aim circle is 60% in, like 60% of the shots go into the middle of the 60%, means the same thing will happen to a tank like the Object 140, which has a 0.3 accuracy, meaning at 100 meters it has a circle in 60 diameter. Meaning, well, maybe now it's not in 30 centimeters diameter, maybe it's 35 centimeters in diameter. But still the same amount of shots will land in this 35 centimeter diameter circle. And this makes a huge problem, because it doesn't really help to have a more accurate gun when you have to pay a lot more for that and you can't consistently hit your aim weak spots. I do understand that it won't be a lot of fun to play against a tank which can nail you at 500 meters plus every single time. But still, it feels very, 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 very ungrateful to play the Leopard 1 if you go into a mindset thinking, yes, I have an accurate gun, and still I have roughly the same accuracy as I have on other tanks like a 140, a K91, and a 430U, which are far less accurate. And this just feels a little bit sad. Yes, obviously with those tanks I might be closer to the enemies, but then again, it doesn't reward you for having a tank with non-existing armor and a tank which has basically one of the worst tier 10 DPMs in the game for medium tanks. Just to put this in perspective, luckily I have every single tier 10 medium tank in the garage except for the T22 medium, if I'm not mistaken. 430U has way more armor. Yes, it has a more inaccurate gun and it's slower, but we all know the 430U is kind of broken at the moment. 3.27 DPM. We have 3.35, so we have 130 DPM more for basically trading in survivability like a madman. If we now take here the T62A, we have a better DPM by over 100. Which is a little bit ouch, if you think about it. Okay, the 907 is even more busted with 3.6k DPM. The 140 gets to a DPM of 3.67, but we have vents, so that might be a little bit of misleading. This tank has also vents, but we get a 3.852 DPM with vents. Yes, the E50M, however, this tank we all know has a bad DPM, and it has 3000, so 300 less than the Leopard 1 has. The M48 Patton, 3.5. The M60 Patton, let's just give him his crew, 3.2, but we don't play it with Cola, so let's put in Cola to just be more or less accurate. 3.36, but we also use vents, which would be 70 less, so it's roughly equal to the M60. This tank has a way broken DPM anyway. You can see already that it's very strong. The AMX30B has also a lot better DPM with almost 3.8k, But again, we also use vents right here, which would be an additional 78. Now down, so 3.71 something. The batch chat doesn't count, it's an autoloader. I don't want to count autoloaders because it doesn't really make sense, because they have a totally different niche to fill. The Centurion Action X, which is like the main battle tank with a great turret, or turret which you can at least use, has 3.368 and actually armor on the upper front plate, which helps, and a decent, and like the same power to weight ratio if you think about it. It is slower, however, yes. But 3.368, which is almost equivalent to what the Leopard 1 has. Even slightly better. The 121 has a better DPM. The 121B, I'm not entirely sure, but I think he has an equal DPM. We are not using rations right now, but we have vents in, so let's just put rations in. You have a rough estimate. So it is roughly equal. The STB1 got completely buffed to 3.78. 6. This one has 3.4, which is also better than what the Leopard 1 has. And the Spaghetto, I don't really want to count the Spaghetto because he has this special auto-reloading mechanism, which makes it a little bit weirder to use. But still, 7.9 seconds is not too bad if you know what you are doing. So, over the board, basically the Leopard 1 is one of the worst tier 10 tanks, or at least it's at the bottom of the tier 10 tanks with the DPM. Only E50M is much worse, and, well, I think it was the M60 roughly. But doesn't this feel, and the 430U obviously, but doesn't this feel kind of a little bit saddening if you think about it? We have the glass cannon, a cannon which is very, very weak, has no armor to speak of, has to have a good knowledge of the game. You have to know what you're doing, you have to know your view ranges, you have to know what you can do with bushes, etc, etc, 15-meter rule. And again, I do like the Leopard 1, I used to play it a lot myself and have now with the test server 707 games on it. But then again, you do not get rewarded, your gun doesn't feel accurate enough, and your DPM is basically laughable at best. If you think about it. For that you are one of this tank which is so weak in armor, you have a laughable DPM. They scrapped the AMX 30B buffs for iteration 1. But just to give a point, the tank gets slightly slower. I think it goes down to 60 kph instead of 65. But just think about it, the AMX 30B has equivalent armor values. Roughly. It's maybe a little bit better because of the gun mantle, but worse because of the huge cupola. It has slightly worse gun stats, but he has a DPM of 3.8, one of the best in the game. I think even it's the best tier 10 medium tank DPM. Maybe the K91 is better. Yes, the K91 is better, so I made it a little bit of a mistake. But yes, we have a fast tank with DPM which is still kind of laughable. So that is the first big problem. Yes, the accuracy, I didn't felt this accuracy, this buff. And I say once more, if they want to make a difference, they have to push this down to grill levels of accuracy, which still feels kind of meh. If you think about it, it being such a highly accurate tank. But I do think giving this tank the accuracy of the Gorilla 15 would make it much more compatible. The accuracy on the move, which you can see here with the same setup, is decent. Like, you can feel the change and this feels good, and this was a happy change to me. But does it really help you to think about that you lose 3 km/h top speed? And in those 13 games I've played, I can count 3 easily where I died because I was not fast enough backwards anymore. And this is especially tragic when you get hit by FV4005 stage 2 into your turret with force 1770 damage. That hurts, that feels bad, and this once again makes no sense in my eyes that this tank gets, this tank should be the mobile sniper, the tank, the medium tank, which is the mobilest sniper of them all. And they're nerfing the backward speed. Like, this is like one of the most important things. I don't understand. I would rather take the old mobility than this new one. Because what I've noticed, and you will see it also in the game, is that the tank's top speed is useless in most cases. At least in 85% of the cases, The 70 km/h top speed is not being achieved on flat surfaces. And that's due to the problem that the tank has a bad power to weight ratio for what it should be. It is historical, don't get me wrong. It's even a little bit over historical, to be precise. Yes, they planned 30, but they didn't achieve it. The power to weight ratio was 19.6 horsepower. And right now we have 20.6. So Wargaming even played around there a little bit. Excuse me. Yet I do still think it would be great if Wargaming would think about maybe saying, oh, he got new diesel or new gasoline and it's more, I don't know. Give this tank 225 per ton power to weight ratio to make it more competitive and actually use its enhanced mobility. That would be great. I don't really want to go into tank traverse and turret traverse because yes, you can feel both, but it is not too big of a deal. I make a separate video about the Leopard PTA, but the Leopard PTA got those changes like a madman. Oops, I have to change those around. Left side we have the 1.5, right side the 1.5.1. He got the same gun now as the Leopard 1, and like one of the things is, while the Leopard 1 got a 30 DPM increase, the Tier 9 vehicle got a 130 DPM increase. It's still not that much, but it still feels a lot better. And yes, it lost power to weight ratio and it lost reverse speed, which I again don't really understand. Nevertheless, I do have to say from the game I've played on the test server, the Leopard PTA feels amazing. And this is my problem right now. Yes, the Leopard 1 is an iconic tank, but why should you get the Leopard 1 when the Leopard PTA is tier for tier so much better? I do think the Leopard PTA is a great tier 9 tank, especially now after the buffs, while the Leopard 1 feels like a tier 9.2 tank, not a tier 10 tank. I just want to put into perspective what it means when you want to have a great upgrade, or what it means when you have a great upgrade. The tier 9 medium tank, the Uuuu-16, comes in with meh accuracy on the move, meh mobility, a meh or okay turret, like it's actually a pretty decent turret. But the biggest thing is you get a 2.7k DPM, 2719 DPM. Okay, now without brothers in arms. But when you get the tier 10 tank, not only do you get more penetration, better premium rounds, you also get a DPM buff of, well, basically, if I'm not mistaken, 700? I might be mistaken. Okay, let's just put the crew out to make it fairer. Yes, you get a DPM buff of 610. That is a huge gap. And you felt that. You felt the better accuracy on the move. It all felt amazing. So the Uuuu-15-16 was an amazing upgrade over the Uuuu-16. Does this mean that the Uuuu-16 is bad? Not really. It is a balanced tank. It just keeps giving me a sour taste on my tongue when I know that the Uuuu-16 to the Uuuu-15-16 feels such a great improvement, while from the Leopard PTA to the Leopard 1, it just feels meh at best. You get, well, right now a 400 DPM increase, 410, which is still 200 less if you think about it. So yeah, let's now get into the game and show you what I mean. And this was the best game I had with the tier 10 Leopard 1, so let's see how it goes. So here we are on the map Mountain Pass in a 357 game on the Russian, or on the test server, not the Russian server, even though it really do feels like a Russian server. One thing I want, well, I'm just going to quickly go back because I kind of overdone it with what I wanted to show. But yeah, I'm just going to quickly go one step back as well to show you what it feels like with the acceleration, which again, it feels like this tank has an iron boot or like an anchor out. And it doesn't really feel like the Leopard 1 should be that slow. You can already see when it comes to acceleration that it feels meh at best. Even the Uuuu-14-5 in the beginning just takes away. And even the T-54 Mod 1 takes away. So right now we are at 50. Okay, now we are getting close to 60. Do not forget the old top speed was 65. Now we had to ram the FV, which was a little bit bad, so we didn't really got to anything close to what our top speed would be. Right now we are waiting for our EPR 90 to do a cross spot. It was a little bit bad by me. I should have gone a little bit further to get a decent shot in. And we actually make a nice snipe shot into the side of the 50 TP. Look, I understand that the 420 alpha feels more formidable for you as a player because it's more punishing against the enemy. But still, I think consistency would have been better than anything else. And I made here a little mistake there. I thought that he bounced, hence why I did the shot. But yeah, this is like the casual thing you're going to do in a Leopard 1. You're trying to do the cross spots or cross shots into the enemy side and see what you can do. Now the Kranwagen got spotted, so I tried to give a shot into its side. Yeah, it goes haywire. One thing I actually noticed most of the time is that I always think the gun should aim longer in than it actually does. Like, I always think the gun is not accurate yet. Like, here, I was like, oh wait, I'm already aimed in, but it still feels very inaccurate if you think about it. 380 meters and the aim circle is huge if you think about it, and we had troubles to hit the lower plate of the AML1. So right now we come into a problem. Yes, the AML1 gives us a nice side shot, and right now I just want to point out what would have happened if we have the old gun or the old alpha gun. So, and yeah, we were not reloaded in time. I checked, it was around 7 seconds we would have hit him. So right now let's just make a tiny little experiment. 353 plus 473. Those was the damage which we dealt with the 2 shots onto the AML1. So right now, if we would have done the average damage with our normal tank, like with the 390 alpha gun, it would have done this, 780. Which, well, is okay, but I think we were more than less than capable to do another shot. And now we have the problem. We did 826 with the new gun, with the improved gun, but with the old gun we would have done 1117 damage, 70 damage, which is 300 damage more, 350 damage more to be precise. And this is a problem I've saw countless times in the 13 games I've played, and it just feels bad. Because you remember that with the old gun you could have done or squeezed out another shot because you had the faster reload time. And yes, I do like quick AE reload times because it helps you negate bad shots or negate bad RNG. And I freaking hate my throat, it's so annoying. But right now we have a decent spot here because we saw the Jack Panzer in 100 and E50 doing a push on the other side. So I'm able to see their sides and even get a decent shot into their side. 461 damage, that is pretty nifty. So let's have a look. Maybe Jack Panzer in 100 into the side, awesome, 462 damage, feels great. Again, the accuracy on the move or during movement feels a lot better. Don't get me wrong, it feels a lot better, and this is a huge plus. But then again, what I notice is just simply so often I feel like the gun could be a lot more accurate than it actually is. It might be just a dumb feeling, a gut feeling at best, but it just feels ugh. It just feels so ugh. Because you always think, oh yes, I can be more accurate, but no, you are not. The gun doesn't aim in more, just the more you wait. So here we got a nice snapshot into the side of the 50 TP, giving us 414 damage, which is pretty neat overall. I'm still trying to nail the Emil's gun mantlet, because the gun mantlet is 250mm thick, and with our 278mm of penetration rate on the new APCRs, it should be pretty decent. So now we get a shot into the lower plate of the 50 TP and finish him off. We keep on moving forward and we are not staying still, so we get a kill. Decent, 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 decent. Now we are still, well, now we had to break, obviously. I'm trying to peek around, maybe spotting the Kranwagen, maybe spotting the 50 or the Conway, depending what they are doing. And yeah, I made a little render on the HWK-40, which is a mistake obviously by my side, which I think it got him a little bit of damage there, I'm not entirely sure. But now we are deciding to push forward a little bit because we still want to use our DPM and see what we can do. So we still didn't achieve 50. Now we had 50 kph. Now we're at 55, and because of the bushes it goes slower and slower. So we got spotted right here, so we do a nice shot into the E50's lower plate. We got ammo-racked, which happens pretty frequently on this tank, and we ammo racked again. This is also one of those big weaknesses of this tank. It has an incredible weak ammo rack. Just keep that in mind, my dear friends. So this is also a balancing factor for the Leopard 1. Luckily enough, the E50 was a little bit stupid and showed us his lower plate, and we definitely took advantage of it. And if you might have seen, not a single time in this game we could have used the new HE. Because we are not an EBR 105, we do not have the luxury to get into the backs of the enemies. Again, it's a great update, it's a great feature, but like the new HEs just still feel so unuseful, especially you can only really use it when you are playing against artillery. Like, that's when you can use it. That's honestly when you can use it at best. That's what I feel, at least. So yeah, this game was that in the end. We got tank gun sniper, we did 4.3k damage, which was great. But it was also the best game I had in the 13 games, and we were farming tier 8 tank, which is pretty bad. You can see from the XP we got. 17 shots, 15 hits, 12 penetrated. 2.5k damage over distance. Yeah, and a sour taste in my mouth. 36, yeah. I want to give you, those are the changes to the Leopard 1. And I just want to finish this up and just to show you what really is bad. We don't really get we don't really get compensation for losing so much HP. No compensation. So overall, if you think about it, we gain a net of 30 DPM more, but we lose 100 HP. So not even there it makes sense. But yeah, again, the penetration rate, it's okay. I guess I can get friends with the 420 alpha, but it still feels meh. I wanted to see 360 alpha or 350. I wanted to see an accurate gun with a fast aim or reload time, like the STB1 right now has. Just the STB1 is not really accurate, which is sad, because the STB1 is basically what we are want to have with the new Leopard 1 in my eyes. The HE is okay, but it's more than a gimmick than anything else. The premium rounds should have at least 330 base, I think, to make it more formidable against tier 10 super heavies like type 5 heavies. The decreased dispersion on turret traverse, hull traverse and so on are great, and those are the only buffs I can say awesome. The hull traverse, okay, it didn't really had to be, but oh well, what can you do? The accuracy needs to go down, period, full stop. 0.29 is not going to make the cut. The accuracy should go down to a base value of 0.26, which as far as I know is the same what the Gorilla 15 has. This would make this tank a lot more accurate, and actually accuracy which you could feel. And not what we have right now. 0.01 will not make a difference. On 500 meters the difference will be 1 feet. Oh no, wait. On 500 meters it would be around 1.5 feet, a little bit more than 1.5 feet, or 50s. Was it say 50? No, it would be 2 feet on like 300 meters if I'm not mistaken. But it's not a lot, and it still feels meh at best. The Gorilla 15 has a base accuracy of 0.27, so you could even think of 0.27, but I would say 0.26 would be amazing, because this would make this tank the most accurate tank in the game at the moment. Yeah, the reload time is a joke. They shouldn't have changed that. there is, once again, there is no difference whatsoever when you come from the tier 9 to the tier 10 tank. You have such, like, it doesn't feel like an upgrade. The Leopard PTA makes everything as good as the Leopard 1, with everything being slightly, only a tiny touch worse. I'd say give it its old reload time and bump its DPM to 3.6k, because then you are fearing the Leopard 1. And the Leopard 1 should be a fearsome opponent on distance, because this is what it excels at. This is what Germany did back in the 70s. This is what they wanted the Leopard 1 to be. This sniper, this ambusher. And right now this doesn't feel like it. The aim time, I think, should go down to 1.5 seconds to make it more snappy, but it doesn't really need to be. The new aim time feels good, especially with the new accuracy on the move. The top speed, well, it's okay. The reverse speed is an utter joke, and I do not understand it. And lastly, there has to be a new engine, period. There has to be a new engine or more horsepower, because you don't reach the 70 kilometers per hour top speed. We lose backward speed for gaining nothing at all. Or we gain something which in 15% of the cases we can't use. GG. Where is there the point in that, right? And again, we lost 100 hit points, which also makes this tank even more squishier and makes it even more prone to one-shots of an FV4005 stage 2 or 183. And even artillery hitting you, which will most likely penetrate if they hit the engine deck or the sides, yeah, you are left with 500 HP instead of 600. With 650 HP, you could maybe survive 2 shots of a 140. With 500, you do not. So yeah. In conclusion, the video is way too long. It is longer than a German video, but I thought I put over my reasoning and my feedback a lot better than I did in the German video. What I always had to say in my German video and the end of the video is that the tank, it feels like Wargaming just gave us an arbitrary buff, which basically is a nerf in my opinion, and to push a pacifier up the Germans' mouth to just cut them out, to just shut them off and make them silent again. Because, oh look, they got their buff, so please shut the fuck up right now. This is how it feels at the moment. I know this is the first iteration. I have high hopes for the second iteration. If the second iteration does not change anything significantly, I have to say I do not want the E100 to be changed. Because if this is a buff, what will the E100 get? A 500 alpha gun? Wowie. An 800 alpha gun with 25 seconds reload time or something, buffing his DPM by 1 or something. Wow. That's nothing. That's bull crap. What do you think about the Leopard 1 changes? Let me know in the comment section below. Please make yourself heard in the what's it called? In the forums. Make yourself heard. It would be amazing and it would be very important to me. I want to see the Leopard 1 to be a formidable enemy, something the enemies have to fear if it's on distance. I want to have a tank which is skill-based. A tank which has something to shine. Mobility, which at the moment is still non-existent compared to other tanks. Right now the 630B, I know it gets changed in another update. But at the moment, the 30B basically does everything the Leopard 1 does, but better. Except for accuracy. And this is just like mind-boggling to me. Why is the 30B what the Leopard 1 should be? Why? It makes no sense to me. It makes no sense whatsoever. Yeah. Those are my ideas. Those are my 2 cents in 40 minutes right now to the Leopard 1 changes. Thank you so much for your attention. And I'll talk to you all later. And I'm also going to talk about the STB1. I can already say the only thing I really dislike is the accuracy during turret traverse, which you need, and the wonky hydropneumatic suspensions. That's what I have the problem with. Thank you so much for your attention, and I'll talk to you all later.